Hi guys, Eli here for Ancestral Recall, and today we are going to be doing an editorial, and this one is unscripted. Today I want to tell you guys about something that doesn't affect most of my viewers, but will affect some of them, and that is the registration process for Grand Prix Chiba 2015. So first up, I'm not going to Chiba 2015. I am here in Philadelphia and I do not have money to travel. I'm not going to Grand Prix Vegas either, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, that's all right. I have a job that requires me to be in Philly pretty much 5 days a week. I teach and I take my classes really seriously, so being away from my students for a day, that's kind of a big deal. Anyway, April 7th, 8:30 p.m. in Japan, the online registration for GP Chiba goes live. And Haruya is the store that is the tournament organizer for GP Chiba. And it costs 9,000 yen, which is around 80 bucks right now. I'm not exactly sure what the yen is right now. But yeah, I'm all right, fine. And in an hour, 1,800 people sign up. Okay, all right. And so I follow a bunch of Japanese players' Twitter accounts. I follow a bunch of American international players who happen to live in Japan. One of them, Ryan Schwenk, he does a blog called The Japan Hobbyist. And if you ever want to know about what it's like to be a foreigner playing Magic in Japan, he does a really fantastic job. I was a foreigner in Japan for 6 years, but Ryan's been around for a while, and while he's not necessarily the best player in terms of some of his advice, you know, he makes a couple bad calls. But anyway, he wrote an editorial talking about how it was hard for players to sign up for Grand Prix Chiba. Registering for Japanese GPs, when I was living in Japan, here's how I did it. I would email the tournament organizer and tell them, hey, you know, want to sign up for your event. And I would do it in English because the Japanese websites have very, very poor support for non-Japanese speaking players. So it was a real chore other than, you know, just directly emailing the TO or the regional coordinator. And usually the regional coordinator was the best person to talk to. He was able to sort things out. So, you know, Ron, you're the best. Anyway, this is on April 7th this year. Chiba goes live, and there's 1,800 seats fill up, and people start realizing that the people registering overseas are having a great deal of trouble because there's an English guide for navigating the monolingual Japanese page, and whoever translated it did not really do a very good job of it. So there's incredibly complex kanji there, and if you use translation software, it still doesn't make things clear. So anyway, I'll show you guys. This is from the blog I mentioned before. Here are the directions that Haruya posted, and so they'll show you the web page to navigate. And so they say, click this, write your full name and DCI number. But as far as online payment goes, there's 4 options. Now, Japanese credit card websites very rarely take international credit cards. It's a giant pain in the rear end. It was like that when I was there, just doing online stuff in Japan. Giant pain in the rear end, because generally the way that people pay for things online is they take a remittance form down to the local 7-Eleven or convenience store and pay it there. That's how it gets done. People really don't transmit electronic stuff online. So anyway, Japan sells out in 4.5 hours after it went live, 300 spots left. 2:30 a.m., all spots are gone. And the international community had a great deal of trouble navigating the webpage, and just payment was a problem. And if you don't submit the payments, you're not going to be able to get in. So you have players who are having trouble navigating this website. Now, here's the thing. If you need to navigate a website in English, okay, most of the people watching this video, certainly not all, are native English speakers, but there's a ton of my viewers from other countries. Hi Germans, hi Italians. You guys are awesome. All the Euro viewers, everyone around the world. There's so many countries. I'm really excited that there's a big German contingency, more than the UK. So that's cool. The Italian viewers, Spanish viewers, Portuguese viewers. I've got a couple viewers in Brazil. I've got people in Russia. I've got people in Saudi Arabia. I've got people in Nepal. That's kind of a confusing one. Again, I don't even think they sell Magic in Nepal. I think that's probably just a personal contact who really just wants to see me on YouTube. But anyway, there's lots of people internationally who just can't get through the payment site because foreign credit cards can't go through. PayPal was a fairly reliable way. But, I mean, we don't know the final numbers. But I'm going to say that in terms of international player base, if you're Korean or Chinese or Malaysian or Indonesian, following the instructions was really, really hard. So this is supposed to be the Asian Grand Prix. It's not the Japanese Grand Prix. But the website was monolingual. And generally speaking, if you have a clean, easy to follow English website for the biggest Grand Prix in Asia, that's going to be a huge help to the whole of the Asian community. I mean, it would be nice if you could have it in Chinese and English and Japanese and Korean and Tagalog, but English, generally speaking, is the international business language, and so lots of people who speak some English can be able to do some e-commerce. And I don't feel that Haruya's English guide really helped people walk through that enough. So I'm upset about this because I feel like a Grand Prix is not a Grand Prix unless it's international. And I want to see the final numbers. I'm really curious to see what the breakdown is, but I would be really surprised if we get more than 2% of the player base coming from outside Japan. That's not saying that they're all Japanese, because there are foreign players who live in Japan, but I think it's going to be really hard to get more than 2% because of the faulty way in which this website was set up. So I really don't want to call out Saito and Haruya for doing a bad job on this. I'm not here to publicly shame them, but when I was in Japan back in 2002, 2003, I remember constantly reading about in the papers, the World Cup was going on in Japan, and it was the Korea-Japan Games, and there were a lot of issues with international people trying to get tickets online, and the processing system for locals was far more advantageous than for the international people, and FIFA was very much against it. FIFA said, you know, we want to make sure that we all have our equal access to tickets because the World Cup is an international affair. And while, hey, there are 3 GPs happening at the same weekend, one in Europe, one in North America, one in Asia, I feel like the rest of Asia kind of got left out. Now, I really love the Magic community. There's so many Magic pros there who I have a great respect and love for. I don't want to call anyone out for being xenophobic, but when the 2002 World Cup situation, I just felt like it wasn't inclusive enough, and Japan widely got criticized for it. There was also the issue in that in Japan, the billing of the games was the Japan-Korea World Cup, not the Korea-Japan World Cup, and that was a big problem with FIFA because Korea and Japan, 2 countries which don't necessarily have the best cultural relationship. Business relationship, pretty darn close. But due to World War II and pre-World War II occupation of Korea, there's not... It's a bit tense. It's not like the China-Japan relationship, which is, again, trade-wise, the 2 countries are very much cooperative, but in politics and international culture, the 2 countries are greatly opposed. So I feel like there's a good chance that the rest of Asia is going to be really ticked off with Saito. So here's my solution. Here's my solution. Let's say you've got 4,000 seats. Designate 3,600 for easy access for Japan. Because, hey, it's hard to get 400 people to fly into Japan. Japan's an expensive place to visit, no doubt. I have been to Tokyo. I went to the Worlds in Chiba back in 2007 or 2008 it was. And I stayed in a capsule hotel, which is, sorry, not a capsule hotel. That was the other tournament. I stayed sleeping at an internet cafe. Now, it wasn't that bad because you're sleeping in a little cubicle and there's like this sofa, and there's kind of this sofa set up, and you've got all you can drink, soda, and there's a room where you can take a shower. It's not exactly roughing it, but it's not great. And it costs about like $25 a night. I'm not encouraging people to do that for GP Chiba or any Japanese GPs. You definitely have to get a good feeling for Japan before you do that kind of thing. Anyway, I digress. I don't agree with all the solutions that the author makes on the Japan Hobbyist website. You have to have caps. That's just how venues work. And 4,000, 5,000 people, that's not easy to cater to. So saying, oh, just have unlimited seating, that's impossible. That's not going to happen. But I feel that having, say, 90% dedicated for Japanese access and 10% for international players, which if international players don't get in on it, don't use them up, then hey, you can get people in the last minute. That's something that can give access. Another idea is if you're playing in the Grand Prix trial and you win buys to the Grand Prix, that should also win you the right to enter the Grand Prix. I'm not saying that CEO of the GP trial necessarily pays for the ticket. Let's make the person who wins buy the ticket, same as anyone else. Although if you want to have a store pay the entrance fee, that's their call. But guarantee the winner of a Grand Prix trial entrance into the Grand Prix that it feeds to. Because I heard numerous reports in Japan about very low Grand Prix trial attendance for Chiba because people are saying, oh, you know what? It's virtually impossible to get in there. There's also the issue of ticket scalping, which that's inevitable. I don't know if there's an easy solution to that. I'm not proposing anything about that. But anyway, point being, I was in Japan for 6 years, and there were places I went shopping. There was a store I went to that sold Magic cards, which had a finance office on the 3rd floor. And on the 1st floor, there were all these signs saying, Japanese, not only Japanese allowed, no foreigners in the store. Because apparently there was some kind of issue in the finance store. And so for me, my Japanese was very poor, so I was walking and I'm thinking, here's this store telling me I'm not welcome to go in and buy and trade and sell Magic cards and to play the game. Well, that wasn't the case. It was this finance store upstairs, which I'm sure was connected to organized crime. And, Japan has its own organized crime issue. I don't want to get into that there. But I feel that Japan, historically, Japanese people are nice. But there's a certain percentage of people in Japan who really don't feel comfortable interacting and dealing with foreigners. And, what people do in their own time, that's their business. I respect their positions. But Magic Grand Prix can't have that happen. So I feel that maybe that was part of the mindset that caused the decisions to go the way they did. I feel like there should have been much clearer access in order to ensure the rest of Asia an opportunity to go to participate in a really awesome Grand Prix. So that's the problem. All right, I've said my piece. I'm going to finish up here. Just a little bit of news. I had a bit of computer problems. I just got fixed recently, so I'm going to get the Fallen Empires review out the door as soon as possible. From there, I'm starting on Champions of Kamigawa. Champions of Kamigawa is going to be a big review for me. I'm really excited about that one. There's a lot to say about that set. I feel it's absolutely one of the most misunderstood sets of all time. But just because I have a different perspective on it from most other people, because I've been in Japan extensively. I was there for 6 years. My Japanese isn't horrible. although I'm not just going to start flourishing it without actual context on channel because I'm lazy like that. But Kamigawa is a cool set, provided a lot of lessons from design. I feel like Wizards, in some ways, is very critical of it because they use sales as the ultimate rubric of what they think this set's quality is. That's something that I've gotten out of Mark Rosewater, and I understand that because he is a pitchman for Magic. At the bottom line, he does try to sell Magic cards. A lot of what his public communications are about is selling the game to people. So if he says, you know what, we didn't sell well, so yeah, Kamigawa's a problem. And so the consumers told us that didn't succeed. Well, a lot of people don't go to classical music concerts, but I think there's a lot of quality in classical music. Not that that's the only thing I listen to, but anyway, so Kamigawa is coming up soon. Thank you guys for listening to this editorial. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm going to keep up the history work. One other thing. Yep, we're adding an extra little discussion because I want to talk about the ruling from Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. So I've been watching YouTube. Evan Irwin, Mr. Lubufu, they put out videos talking about the ruling with Patrick Chapin. I read a really interesting article from Cedric Phillips about it. And, you know, I feel like the judges made a reasonable call. The rules are the rules, and this is the highest level REL possible. I feel sorry for Pat Chapin. But here's the thing about cameras and the feature match table and Magic. We have had a scenario with an on-camera game where the judges used the footage to rewind and replay a game from the exact circumstances in which the rules infraction was made. 2005, Japanese Nationals, it's Junya Ianagi versus, the guy who wins. I'm covering his match in the finals of Worlds 2005, where he and his team win. His name, I'm drawing a blank right now. But anyway, here's the situation. So Ianaga mind-slavers his opponents, and his opponent has a Sword of Fire and Ice, equipping Frostling. And so it's Mindslaver. You're trying to do as much damage to someone as possible. And so Ianaga tries to target Frostling with its own ability. And the table judge lets that happen. So nobody really catches the error because it's an illegal target, and that ability on Frostling cannot be played. It can't target a creature with protection from red, even if it's itself. So that game resolves the match, and Ianaga wins, but someone picks up on it, and they mention to the judge, and they realize, you know what, we've got a camera that has recorded every card in the two players' hands, and we have a recording that labels exactly what the graveyards were. We know exactly what the cards in hands were. We know what the life totals are. We can reproduce the exact game state of the game. And so the judges call the players back, and they decide to back up the game to that point, and they play it out. And this time out, Ianaga loses. So at this point, we have essentially a camera being used for a ruling. And the judge lists around the judge community on the internet kind of flip out. And there's a lot of feedback, and if you know anything about the judges list, there is a lot of heated, contentious discussion, which that's how judges are. If you think judges... I have great respect for Magic judges. They're awesome people, and when they are speaking to the public, they talk very clearly and as much as possible within one voice. But when they talk amongst themselves, I don't think I would characterized it as speaking with one voice. Judges are very outspoken. They have strong opinions. And this was a major bone of contention. And a lot of people got upset by it. So in the Magic Tournament rulebook, Rule 213, which says that cameras may not be used and video footage may not be used for making rulings during the game. That's where this ruling, that's where this part of the rules comes from. And so the rule is you can't use footage to make a judge call because they don't want to have the scenario where players will complain, well, you know, we had this all on camera, so I deserve to have things rolled back. That's a very untenable situation. And people talked about, well, why don't we have a judge sitting and watching the stream? Is that judge going to be glued to that monitor for 7 or 8 hours on end? That's a really brutal thing to do. And, you know, how are you going to make sure that that's reliable? And if you have multiple judges, are they going to spot different things? So it opens up a giant can of worms. So that's why there is no footage used during the event. When you're doing investigations, things for disqualifications, determining the strength of penalties, that type of stuff, footage is awesome for. Judges can use that stuff. It's explicitly allowed within the tournament rules, and I heartily approve of that because I do not approve of cheating. But Americans who watch the NFL and who are used to a game where technology is everywhere, I mean, they put mics and cameras in the players' helmets. That's not the standard which we can really hold Wizards of the Coast or the associates who are providing coverage to. We can't hold them to that level of standard. All right, guys. So just a little more context for you. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for sitting through however minutes of my blathering it is, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Eli Kaplan from Ancestral Recall signing off. Good games and good luck.